Saktha culture. Of all the Tantrika cults, the Saktha has suffered most on account of misunderstanding and malpractice. Many people came to see in it lust, pleasure, mummery, great show without reality, and black magic replete with silly and vulgar superstition, false worship. But if one look the trouble of studying the Shakta Tantras with a view to understanding them, one would find much sense in the principles taught therein. Philosophically, Shakta Darshana is a type of non dualism, Advaita. Reality, according to it, it is non dual, Advaita. It is of the nature of existences, consciousness, moral source, bliss, high happiness, Sachidananda. It is Nirguna in the sense that there are no distinctions in it. Nothing is real apart from it. All things are identical with it. The non dual reality manifests itself as a world of plurality through the pore of Maya. So far, the Advaita of Shaktism agrees with that of Sri Shankara. But while for Sri Shankara, Maya is a principle of illusion, veiling the real Brahman and projecting the non real world for Shaktism. It is a real power really manifesting itself in the form of the variegated, diversified universe. In this respect, the teaching of Shaktism is identical with that of Kashmira Saivism. Both of them consider the ultimate reality to be Shiva Shakti, consciousness power. Shiva is a static of consciousness, while Shakti is its presence, movement. Example, Shiva is a flower and Shakti is a smell. The Shakta Tantras represent this truth by the figure of 5 corpse like Shivas supporting the throne of the World Mother set in the wish granting groves of the Isle of Gems, Manitviba, the golden sands of which are laved by the still waters of the ocean of immortality, imperishable. Amrita, both statics and kaizens are required for the evolution, preservation, and involution of the world. While Shiva is a basic foundation of creation, Shakti is its moving principle. Two aspects of Shakti are to be distinguished: Vidya or Chit Shakti and Avidya or Maya Shakti. Chit Shakti is of the nature of illumination of consciousness, Prakasha. Maya Shakti is the same consciousness that wields itself and of evolution, Vimarsa. Through Maya, the one becomes the many. The infinite finalizes itself. The Supreme Spirit evolves into the world of mind, life, and matter. The evolution, however, does not affect in any real sense the nature of Shiva, who is not only of the form of the universe, Vishwamaya, but is also beyond it, Vishwottima. There is a very near kinship between Shakti and Saivism, especially that form of Saivism which is associated with Kashmir. For both, as we had said, reality is Shiva Shakti. The only difference consists in the shift in the emphasis on the one or the other of the two aspects of reality. For the Saiva, Shiva is a predominant principle, whereas for the Shakta, Shakti is the dominant factor. The Shakta concept of the motherhood of God is a fascinating one. In a world which is so much male dominated and prone to be profane, the Shakta emphasis on divine motherhood is very desirable. In Shakta Darshana, the woman, especially as mother, is assigned the first place of honor. As essential feature of Shakta sadhana is a ritual worship of women and girls. The Shakta Tantras prohibit inflicting injury of women and put a ban on such practices as the sati. Even in sacrifices, they insist female animals should not be immolated. The Mahanirvana Tantra prescribes a whole day's fast to the man who speaks rudely to his wife and enjoins the education of girls before their marriage. The Muslim author of the Tabistan says the Agama favors both sexes equally. Men and women equally composes mankind. This sect hold women in great esteem and call them Shaktis. All ill-treat a Shakti, that is, a woman, is a crime. Not knowing the truth of the emphasis laid on the mother principle in Shaktism, a Western critic characterizes it as a doctrine of suffragette monist. That homo unsupported by any evidence that the female principle antedates and includes male principle, and that this female principle is a supreme divinity. The obvious reply to such a criticism is that Shakti is woman only figuratively and symbolically. Shakti is God as a principle of productivity, and the Shakta gives it the female form for purposes of worship. In truth, however, the ultimate reality is neither male nor female. Neyam yochit na chapuman na sando na jada smrta. This is neither woman nor man, nor what is neuter, nor what is unconscious. A hymn addressed to Shakti in the Mahakala Shamita runs thus: Thou art neither girl, nor maid, nor old. Indeed, thou art neither female, nor male, nor neuter. Thou art inconceivable, immeasurable power, the being of all which exist, void of all duality, the supreme Brahman, attainable in illumination alone. What is extremely important in Saktha Tantra, as in all Tantras, is the teaching about the ways of worship one should adopt in order to reach the human goal, which is moksha, release. The Shakta conception of the goal is not different from that of Advaita Vedanta, which is the realization of the non-duality of the Supreme Spirit. But one difference between Shaktism and Advaita is, as already pointed out, that for the former, the process of the one becoming the many is real, whereas it is not so for the later. Hence, the sadhana for the Saktha consists in the life of ceaseless activity and meditation. He does not avoid the world, but embraces it in order to overcome it. He sees the workings of the divine everywhere, even in things and functions that are ordinarily held to be despicable and low. This is the reason for the adoption by the Shakta of the so-called left-handed practices. The true meaning of the left, Vama, is reverse process towards the goal. The soul is carried away from its true nature as Shiva by the outgoing process. If it has to go back to its source, it must follow the reverse process. The main purpose of the sadhana is to switch on the return current so that the soul may regain its identity with Shiva. The Shakta Tantras classify the soul into three ascending groups: Pasu, Vira, and Divya. Pasu is the soul in bondage. Through sadhana, it has so to rise to the other two grades in succession, like the heroic Vira and the divine Divya. The objective of this ascent is that the soul should cast off its animal dispositions and become completely divine. Expressed in the language of the three gunas, the soul should overcome tamas by rajas and rajas by sattva. The discipline that the soul should adopt will naturally depend on the level in spiritual evolution that it finds itself in. The Kulamava Tantra speaks of 7 akaras in sequence: Veda, Vaishnava, Saiva, Dakshina, Vama, Siddhanta, and Kaula. Of these 7, the first 3 are designed for the Pasujiva, the next 2 for the Veera, and the last 2 for the Divya. The first 3 akaras stand respectively for the Karma, Bhakti, and Jnana margas. The emphasis in the Vedic discipline is on ritual, in the Vaishnava on devotion, and in the Saiva on knowledge. The fourth akara, which is called Dakshina, seeks to conserve the results gained by the first 3. So far, the process is one of going forth. It is at the next stage, Vamakara, that the return current commences. Certain aspects of this discipline involve the use of wine and women. It is these that have brought on calumny, false accusation to Shakta Sadhana. The ritual connected with these aspects is called Panchatattva, as it involves the offering of 5 objects to the deity. As the Sanskrit names of objects begin with M, the ritual is also known as Pancha Makara Puja. The 5 objectives are wine, Madhya, meat, Mamsa, fish, Matsya, grain, Mudra, and woman, Maithuna. The Tantras tells us that there are 3 ways in which the ritual may be performed, each subsequent way being superior to each earlier one. The first, which is the lowest in the ritual as it grows form. Even here, it is to be noted that the significance of the ritual is the sublimation of all life functions, including those of eating, drinking, and mating. The principle underlying the ritual is, by that one must rise by which one falls. The second way of performing the Panchatattva ritual involves substitution. Here, instead of meat, for instance, ginger is used, and instead of wine, coconut water. It is not the original objects indicated by the 5 M's that are offered by their substitutes, which are all non-objectionable. The highest mode of the Panchatattva worship is purely an internal process. It depends on no outside material. It consists of yoga practices. Here, for example, Go Mamsa Bhakshana does not mean eating beef, but placing the tip of the tongue at the root of the throat. Thus, it will be clear that the use of the Panchatattva in the literal sense is made only at the lowest level of the sadhana. And even then, the aim is to achieve for the sadhaka self-control. That is why it is specifically stated in the Tantra Sastra that the Panchatattva is for the Veera. The Pasu is not fit for it. The Divya does not require it. It is a form of Rajasika sadhana for which only the Veera is eligible. The technique that he has to follow is to consecrate what are usually regarded as impure and repulsive things and acts and learn to look upon them as expression of the divine. Here, the sadhaka is not to stop. He has to go beyond the Veera Bhava and attain to the Divya. The last 2 stages in the Tantrika discipline, like Siddhanta and Kaula Akaras, complete the process of making the soul divine. Siddhanta means arriving at the final position as a result of the reflection upon the relative merits of the path of enjoyment and that of renunciation. This, of course, implies that the sadhaka realizes that the emptiness of the so-called pleasures and cultivates dispassion in the final stage, which is Kaula. He pursues the path of renunciation to its conclusion and realizes Brahman, which is termed Kaula in the Saktha system. Here, as in the other Tantrika traditions, the guiding hand of a guru is absolutely essential. It is he that must initiate the aspirant into the path and lead him on step by step to the final goal. The Supreme Guru is Shiva Shakti, the ultimate principle of that the human Guru is but a terrestrial existing on the earth manifestation. The technique of Tantrika worship is an art by itself and involves several phases, ranging from gross physical forms to subtle mental modes. Every item of this technique has a deep significance. The sadhaka is asked to start with outer worship, Bahya Puja, but he is not to stop there. He has to go inward by stages through chanting of hymns, stava, muttering of mantras, japa, and meditation, dhyana, until he attains unity with the non dual reality, Advaita Bhava. In the Tantrika sadhana, images are used as objects of worship at first. Sometimes these objects bear no definite shape, like the Shivalinga and the Salagrama. Gradually, the worshipper trains himself to contemplate the deity in the form of yantra or chakra consisting of linear designs and in the form of a mantra or sound formula. The process of ritual worship is a highly complicated one. The worshipper has first to purify his body, composed of 5 elements. This is known as Buddha Suddhi. Then he has to perform what is known as Nyasa, which means touching the various parts of the body with the tips of fingers and palm of the right hand to the accompaniment of the appropriate mantra. After this, he has to invoke the presence of the deity in the image and thus enliven it. This is called Prana Pratishta. Then the worshipper has to make gestures with his hands, indicating thereby the different intentions and wishes he has in mind. The gestures are the mudras. After these preliminaries, he has to worship the deity by bathing the image, adorning it, etc. The objective of all these ritual acts is to make the mind pure so that it may direct its attention constantly towards God. The Saktha sadhana, which makes use of the Tantrika technique of worship in a very detailed and elaborate manner, as fascinating as it is potent. But one must be on one's guard while practicing it with the help of the Guru. If one understands the expressed instruction superficially and acts accordingly, one may go wrong, egregiously, outrageously. What is of utmost importance here is to get beyond the mere words and grasp their spirit. For example, a verse of the Karpuradi Sostra, which is a hymn to Kali, says that the Devi is pleased to receive in sacrifice the flesh with bones and hair of goat, buffalo, cat, sheep, camel, and man. The significance of this statement is that sadhaka has to offer the goddess his lust, anger, greed, stupidity, envy, pride, and infatuation with the things of the world. The aim of sacrifice is to surrender the ego to the deity and thus to realize the non-difference of the soul from the Supreme Spirit. The Gandharva Tantra declares the goals of sadhana, thus Aikyam, Sambhava Ediman, Jivaswa Brahmanopika. The wise one should accomplish the identity of the soul with Brahman.
Oh.